Christmas special. We don't have any Christmas music queued up, do we?
No.
All right, awesome. That's great. My name's Chris.
My name is Chris as well.
Oh my God, what are the odds? Right? All right, cool. Anyways, today we are in Bremen, Georgia, at the Sewell Mill building. It is an event center, but before that, it was a cotton mill. They made, they got received cotton, made coats, other stuff. I'm assuming trousers. I don't know. But we're here to investigate a haunting.
Yes.
And we will see later on tonight how that works out. But as of right now, we're doing a live podcast. It's kind of our shtick.
I mean, that might be your shtick, but my shtick is a little bigger.
Maybe as a disappointment. All right. Anyways, Chris, would you like to tell us a little bit about the history of this wonderful building?
Well, it was actually purchased by the Sewell brothers back in 1918 as a cotton mill. I guess we're assuming they used it to make the materials for their sport coat company that they ran out of Atlanta. After that, around 1928, the company actually split up into three different companies. It was Sewell Manufacturing, Red Oak Hat Factory, and the Warren Sewell Clothing Company. And then this building was actually converted to the Warren Sewell Clothing Company in 1946, where it was actually one of the leading distributors of suits for men for a number of years, at least to the 80s. Actually, this particular area, Bremen, Georgia, was called the clothing center of the South because of all the manufacturing plants that were down here.
Dope. The more you know, right? The more you know.
Yeah, where's the rainbow?
I know, right? Yeah, so it is our official Christmas episode.
There just happened to be a tree here, so we're using it.
Yeah, so there's a tree. It's December. It's the last one we're doing this year, let alone the last one in December. So it, by default, is our Christmas episode. It worked out that way. So Merry Christmas to whoever listens to this. Merry Christmas 2021 for anyone listening to this in 2022. Yeah, good stuff. But we're not here really to learn about the history so much as to discuss the haunting here. We are hearing things off in the distance right now. It's a pretty large warehouse building. We are in the main, reception hall. What is it called? Cherry?
This is the Cherry Blossom Ballroom.
Ooh, the ballroom. Cherry Blossom Ballroom. So this place is kind of broken up into different areas. There's a kitchen. There's the ballroom, which we're actually in right now. There's a hallway where they actually host businesses. Like if you have a business and you need an office space, you can rent one out of that hallway area there.
Easily the creepiest hallway I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, Chris is a little freaked out in the hallway.
It's like looking down the hallway in The Shining.
Yes.
Yeah, no.
If there's any little girls that pop up, let's make sure that we tell them it's past their bedtime.
And I'm going straight for the door.
So, and there's another area where it's the basically what amounts to the chapel where people get married. It's really nice, a little creepy as well. And then there's a museum here that goes over the Sewell Mill history and all that stuff. It's pretty cool, except for there's mannequins with outfits on. Half mannequins, just the torso, but it's still a little freaky. So yeah, that's it. There's a bathroom over here in the ballroom with us. It looks like it was an old vault. So that's always comforting while you're on the can.
No one will ever hear you.
Scream.
Yeah, in the bathroom.
Or rip one. Anyways, so yeah. So we have a couple of experiences that someone has shared with us. Anyone watching the web series will see that person, obviously. And as they explain it themselves. But in a nutshell, we'll give you kind of what has happened here, at least from their eyes, or their perspective. So you want to start off with the kitchen episode, or?
So yeah, one of the first appearances actually occurred in the it's actually located directly behind us. She was, working in the kitchen, getting everything kind of cleaned up, and she turned around and she saw a figure of a man standing in the doorway. And in the blink of an eye, it was there, then it wasn't there. But definitely pretty disturbing.
Yeah, she said that well dressed, dressed from a time period that would match up with those, I guess, around that same time period when it was open. So like, the 1918 through like 1930s or 40s. She showed us an actual outfit that looked like it, and it also the way he was, the person was dressed and the way they were, they kind of looked, leads her to believe that it is actually Robert Sewell, but that's speculation, purely speculation at this point. She also mentioned that has happened more than once. It's happened a couple times, and it's not necessarily. And we asked her this on the web series, but she basically would see it. He didn't like disappear, and then she turned back around, and then when she turned back to look, he was gone, just gone. So that's a little interesting. As in, some people will see things out of the corner of their eye or in the peripherals, and when they actually turn, it's gone. Apparently, she was able to turn and look at it or at him, and he was there, and did not necessarily disappear or anything like that. So that's pretty promising, because it's a little harder to just ignore away or whatever, how you would say that. But the fact that he actually stayed there for long enough to actually get a real good look at the ghost was pretty cool. She also had some experience in an office, one of her favorite offices or whatever that she had described it as, but there was an office space that was near one of the vaults in the hallway, and she had, I guess it would be somewhat of a common occurrence where her chair would end up on top of the table.
Yeah, so every morning when she came back in, like the chair would be sitting on top of the desk, which, that's...
And she was the manager of this place for a long time, so it wasn't just it could have been someone else. There was no cleaning crew. She basically was the cleaning crew, and she was the last one here on quite a few of those occasions. So, or most of I guess all the occasions actually. So she would lock up, and they come in the next day, and the chair's on the table. So it wasn't like someone was playing a prank on her.
I imagine. She probably had like the only key.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't seem like a place where there's shared master keys for every office.
Yeah. So that was another strange occurrence she had, and then one of the final occurrences she mentioned was of a table in one of the front areas. I guess would be a front area. There's another entrance.
The main entrance.
Yes,
yeah,
main entrance. And she had decorations on a table in there, and she had set it up a certain way. There was a small Christmas tree on it and a bunch of decorations laid out on the table. And she locked up for the evening, and when she came back the next day, all the decorations, everything was on the floor, but arranged in the exact same way it was on the display on top of the table. So somebody or some entity took the time to take everything off the table and then set it up exactly the same way it was on the table. It wasn't just a thrashing and knocking stuff down. So it's definitely a particular ghost, if it is one. He likes to watch people clean, cook and clean, I don't know, something like that. And he likes to put tables on top of chairs and all that stuff. So I don't know if you consider him a mischievous ghost. I don't know what you would consider him as. That's a little interesting. But
it sounds kind of like a fetish.
a little bit of fetish?
Yeah, a little bit.
Maybe. We'll find out. We're definitely here to find out. We've got
we can start cleaning in the kitchen and we can see what happens.
Yeah, we'll clean in the kitchen. We have some decorations we're going to put on a table in that room and see if we can get him to do it again. Maybe he just has a thing about decorations. Maybe he likes them on the floor. I don't know. Maybe that's what he likes, a lot of things on the floor.
Hopefully we can try to recreate that moment.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we won't be able to do the chair on the desk. I guess that office is now occupied by a different person, and we're not allowed in it. So.
Yeah, they rented that office out, so it's another business, and that door is locked. So we're not going to do that. But that gives us a little bit of a segue to talk about some of the equipment we have, and some of the placement. So we do have 4 IR cameras that will be placed throughout this building, one of which will be in the hallway. So we'll get a good view of that hallway, that room. And actually, the room is kind of off the hallway because there's like a little hallway that comes off of it that room is on, along with a vault. So we're gonna have a camera on the hallway. Hopefully, if anything does pass through and go into that hallway to mess with a chair or a table or whatever, we'll catch it. We'll have another IR camera in the room where the decorations were moved. Hoping we can get him to come out and mess with that. We'll have an IR camera coming from the Cherry Blossom Ballroom.
Yeah, Cherry Blossom.
Cherry Blossom Ballroom, pointed directly at the kitchen, so we can catch any disturbances there. And then we have a camera in the museum pointed towards another hallway, and that brings up that interesting point. So as we were touring this facility earlier, as we were talking, I was looking towards that hallway that I mentioned the cameras were pointed at. And I'm telling a story, and as I'm talking and telling the story, I see this figure, this dark figure, walk across that hallway. Just walk straight across, really quick, but like very obvious it was like someone of a fairly decent sized person walking across that room. Definitely stopped me dead in my tracks when it came to my story. Definitely had a chill come down my spine. So we're gonna have a camera there just in case we can catch that happen. So that's where the 4 cameras are placed. We've got myself, Chris, so the other Chris. We have two Jakes, because we always like to pair off names and faces. So we have 2 Jakes as well. They will be doing the investigation with us, so it's a 4-piece for tonight. We'll both have our each pairing will have a GoPro. Some EVP sessions will be done.
My favorite.
EMF run, yeah. EMF sessions as well. So yeah, another interesting thing, we did this on the last podcast, we do it on this podcast, we'll do it every podcast. If you're watching the video, you'll see it, it's obviously smack dab in front of the camera, but we have a 3rd microphone set up here. That is the ghost microphone. We'll have to come up with a catchy little name for it eventually. I don't know what we would do it, like ghost mic or paramic, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. Anyways. It is there. It is for the ghost. We actually have a generator, a battery backup, whatever, on the ground, fully charged, and it is plugged up to 2 wireless phone chargers. The thought behind this, the theory behind this, is that giving that readily open stream of energy will allow that ghost to manifest himself by using that energy. So we set the mic up, we set those things up right there, and we'll ask a couple of questions before we sign off. Leave a little bit of a break there, see if we can get him to pop up, or him or her, whoever it is that haunts this place, to pop up and give us a shout out on this podcast. That would be really awesome. So we're always looking for this 3rd guest in this podcast, and like I mentioned at the very beginning of the podcast, every every one of the main series podcasts will be at a haunted location. Not live, obviously. We will do some live ones, but for now it's not live, obviously. But we're going to be doing a podcast at the site, actual haunted site, in the most haunted room, or one with the best evidence. And then we'll do a web series investigation the same night. So
Yeah, the evidence for this one is basically directly behind us.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
what about these purple lights here?
oh yeah, so these are phasm lights. These in particular ones we have set up right now we have IR and UV both turned on, so infrared and UV light both turned on. This is a full spectrum light. It's supposed to just capture more than just a normal light that you would have when you take video or photography or just looking in a room. This captures more of the visible light spectrum and invisible light spectrum to help kind of capture that additional movement or additional things you can see. There have been quite a few cases where they'll have cameras set up next to each other. Like they'll have your normal camera and your full spectrum camera or something like that, and you'll capture more on a full spectrum, or you'll capture movements on a full spectrum you did not capture on a regular camera. And that's just because of the different types of light that are being used. So I mean, it's always good to have as much as you can being used so you can capture all types. So we have those set up here. Obviously they're mostly shining on the area where we're hoping our ghost friend will show up and talk and maybe show off a little bit.
And get something captured within that light.
You know, cut a jig, whatever they gotta do here.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
So, yeah, man, what do you think we're gonna catch tonight? You excited? You want to catch something tonight?
I mean, I do and I don't.
Well, how about this? So we did an investigation. Our previous investigation was in a city called Buchanan, Georgia, or Buchanan, Georgia for people outside of Buchanan, at an old library, the old library. There you go. So our good buddy here, Chris, actually, I think they took a liking to him.
Too much of a liking.
So he had a couple of experiences there that I'm sure he would like to share, or maybe he doesn't want to relive it and he'll never talk about it again. I don't know. Let's find out.
I try to go to sleep.
All right. Well.
So about around, I think it was like 1 a.m. We were stationed up in the old courtroom. It's actually located above the library. That's on the first floor. And the old courtroom was where a bulk of the activity took place. I think, one of the crazier things that happened in that area was one of the employees that worked there came upstairs and saw one of the juror chairs spinning on its own.
Yeah, they're all swivel chairs, old wooden swivel chairs. So yeah,
it's incredibly creepy. So we took turns doing individual EVP sessions up in that courtroom. And when everyone was downstairs and everything kind of got to like a low mumble, I asked the pretty standard question, give us a sign if you're in this room, and I heard extremely audible footsteps come up behind me. Turn around, didn't see anything there. These were pretty heavy footsteps because it requires like quite a bit of weight to push into those old floorboards to get that creak. So that was definitely that was close as I wanted to get to that experience. But that was one of them. Do you want to talk about the mirror incident?
Well, I can. I know you had another experience with one of the Jakes, where you asked a question and it sounds like it responded to you in that same question. So if you want to real quickly shoot that one off.
Yeah. So.
And this all happened at the same time. So what he's about to tell you and what I'm about to tell you all happened pretty much in the same span.
Like 10-minute time frame.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. But go ahead. So
we broke off into pairs. Two people went downstairs to attempt an EVP session from a mirror, and then myself and one of the Jakes were upstairs in the courtroom trying to perform another EVP session to see if we could replicate those footsteps, or see if we can get anything else. And one of the questions we asked was how many people are in this room. From the very back of the room, we heard 2 taps against the wood, which was definitely pretty creepy, but also very accurate. But yeah, during that time, we were sitting in chairs. There was no movement. We were trying to be as still and as quiet as possible. There was the only talking was the questions we were asking, and there was about a minute of silence in between each question. It was. I mean, to sum it up, we were completely silent. You could hear a whisper in that room if you wanted to, but that kind of leads into.
Yeah. So the reason he's mentioning that is because me and the other Jake were downstairs doing another session. We're actually doing a mirror session at that point, and we didn't have much experience outside of the creaking that happened behind Chris throughout that night. So we hadn't had much experience yet, and we hit the witching hour at that point, and that's when we started getting a lot of experiences. While they're upstairs and they were doing their EVP session, me and the other Jake were downstairs in front of a mirror. Well, while we were standing in front of the mirror, we started hearing like footsteps upstairs in the courtroom. While we're downstairs in the library, we're hearing people moving around, like lots of shuffling, and we heard a table drag across the floor. And I actually, on the camera footage, I actually mentioned, like, man, they're going crazy up there. I don't know what's going on. So, right after I mentioned that, we finish up our session right there in the mirror. We come walking back, and we're just looking around in the library, and then we get a radio call from the other Chris and Jake upstairs that they had possibly caught an EVP, or at least the knocking. They were like, we got some stuff. So me and my Jake, I'm just going to have to refer to it as that, we're coming back.
They don't have other names.
Right. Coming back, and we start walking up the stairs, and I have my EMF reader still, and it's on. I hadn't got any signal, minus an old busted light in the bathroom, right? And so as I'm coming up the stairs, the EMF goes off loud, boom, and then stops. And so I checked the whole entire staircase, above me, below me, down to the light fixture, down to like the metal railing, everything, cannot get it to trigger off again. But we went ahead and we're like, well, we gotta go upstairs, they called us. So we go upstairs and we talk to them, and they swipe it down, there's no sound, nothing like that. They weren't moving around, walking around. The footage does not show that either on the IR camera. It does see them over there near the chairs, but it doesn't actually there's no indication they were walking around and doing the stuff that we heard while we were downstairs.
We matched up the timestamps too, because we could hear you, kind of talking to the floorboards. It was kind of muffled through the voice recorder we were using, so we knew exactly like when it was happening.
Yeah.
We heard nothing upstairs, so that was definitely.
Then I guess my final experience, as y'all were back downstairs, and it was me and Jake upstairs, and I was sitting in the witness witness stand, and I was just asking if he could do anything. We were mostly watching the jury chairs, see if we could get a rehash of what happened to the employee that was there. So I'm just asking questions. We have the EVP recorded there, and just saying if they'll show us a sign that you're here, that kind of thing. And all of a sudden, something falls to the ground on the far right of the courtroom. Sounds kind of metallic, like a bead almost, but it was like a ding ding ding, like it fell. So I don't know if that was thrown, or if it fell from the ceiling, or what. But it was very distinctive sound. And so I asked, was that you? If that was you, can you do something else just to let us know you're here? And when I said that, we hear a couple of different things, sounds like almost like shuffling or movement, probably about 6 to 10 feet from where that drop was, because it's the same area, but next to the bookcase, we hear more noises. So that was pretty interesting. Honestly, we didn't come back with too much hard evidence. Obviously, there was no apparitions, full body, or anything like that.
Mostly audible.
Yeah, mostly audible stuff. No strange feelings, no real cold spots I could acknowledge. We had one thing that we thought we had caught. It turned out to be just an error on our side, an accidental movement of something. But we were able to prove that was not the case, that it was not paranormal, it was perfectly normal.
Almost the highlight of the evening.
Yeah, and we were psyched. Because where it happened, we had an IR camera pointed straight at it, so it was like, oh, we got this bad boy. Like, it's motion sense, and this has got motion. It's over, baby. We caught this.
Yeah.
and we did catch it, and we were able to debunk it right then and there, or the next day when I looked.
Yeah, caught the hands of another ghost hunter. That's what we got.
Yeah. But that was our experience last investigation. So that was wild. That was fun.
Definitely pretty exciting as we got into the later hours of the evening.
Yeah, definitely. The witching hour definitely lived up to the hype. We're obviously hoping that we get stuff earlier in the night here, but there's a good chance we won't until the witching hour. Apparently that's the hour. I know there is some debate though, like how
daylight savings time.
Yeah, how do we know
When the
witching hour is, and also like what time zone is the witching hour?
How do the spirits know? 'Cause,
Yeah.
You know, we'll know the time zone change. We're like, no, this is what we think is 3 o'clock.
Yeah, and like if you're, let's say we're crossed over to Alabama, which turns into Central Time here for the U.S. folks. So if it's 3 o'clock is witching hour on the East Coast, does it mean at 2 o'clock in Alabama is the witching hour, or does the ghost just wait until 3 o'clock in Alabama to start making noise? And then what about the British ones that are like so many hours ahead of us? Like, is their witching hour tying ours at all? Like, that's the question.
There's like in the middle of the day. Like
That's the hard-hitting questions that we have to figure out as we work through this. But yeah, I say that's about it. We will say that this is not the only thing we'll be doing. I know I mentioned podcast at locations, web series investigations at those locations, but we will be doing a lot more. We'll be doing some roundtable discussion on podcasts. We'll do some other podcasts that aren't obviously tied to investigations.
Have some game nights.
Yeah, we'll be doing some live streaming and some games, hopefully. Probably paranormal games. We'll probably branch out to other ones as well. We're all pretty big gamers. And some of us are pretty big scaredy cats when it comes to certain games. So we'll make sure the lights are out and the surround sound is on, and we'll see what kind of reactions we can have from it, what kind of inappropriate comments we can have on it as well.
The game is pretty unrealistic because you can't go hide in the van. We don't have a van here for that person to go to.
That is true. Yeah. So, which we didn't have anything too spooky. I mean, I think you had the creepiest thing because something walking up behind you.
It's a little unsettling.
So we'll hopefully get something like that. We'll hopefully get some apparitions, something. We'll see.
You can get something like that.
See if somebody runs for their life. I have the keys in my pocket, so they can run outside and sit in the really, really thick fog that has developed outside.
Yeah, talk about a creepy weather right now.
Yeah, it's very creepy weather. But yeah, follow us. We're on a lot of social platforms, social media platforms. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. You can find us. YouTube as well. Just look for Talk Haunted or Talk Haunted to Me, and you'll find us. Follow us and look out for a lot of content. We're going to try to pump out a lot of content. We're here to have a good time, but also do the scientific stuff to try to capture things and debunk things if we do capture something. So I enjoy the hell out of it. These guys are here. So
That's fair. Yeah.
it's a fair assessment. So with that being said, this is Talk Haunted to Me. My name's Chris.
My name's Chris.
And we're signing off. We don't have a catchphrase yet.
Coming soon.
Is that the catchphrase?
It could be.
yeah, it could. All right. Talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.